No, but like it says hours. And this is the grand. This is the Enoch. Right?
Okay, thank you. Sorry, let's conclude.
Really being.
Read, no, read.
He's at it.
Really?
But he was really affected by the same person now. And he's the plan. He was
All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so today, like I said, we do 2 sessions, right? So we'll have this was the what in unique discussion, and then we do Cain and Abel, and then go right into the flood. So that way we've covered everything. So again, really good questions. I'm gonna address. I got all of you, 1 question per person. So you guys are doing a great job. That's exactly what I'm looking for. You're becoming really good exegetes. I'm very happy doing very good drash. Okay, Garcia. Where are you? That's you. Okay, good. So this is a good question. What is God doing with Cain and Abel? They both seem to do the same gesture, right? What is he playing at here, right? And you notice that he causes the whole thing, right? Everybody was fine. Maybe there was some unresolved tension, right? But he it's like he's instigating again, right? He's picking one over the other on purpose, then looking to see what the other is going to do. So definitely there is a problem. We're going to look at that. Good observation. That's the kind of question that then you go back to the text and you're like, I wonder why, right? And then you start to think and get in answers, right? Good. Hilton, where are you? That's you. Okay. Yes, why are the animals given to fear humanity after the flood, right? So remember what I mentioned, right? The original diet of humankind was herbs, fruits, grains, right? It was not even vegetarian, it was vegan, right? That's the original diet in the creation story. When everything is destroyed, they have to eat something. God is being pragmatic. So he gives them animals to eat, which is a concession. It's not the original blueprint. But then he has 2 clauses, right? On the one hand, he says, this is how you will kill the animal. So you will do it respectfully. In other words, you will kill, but you will respect the blood. You don't drink the blood, meaning the blood is sacred. That's the life, the soul of the animal, right? So there's a way of killing which is respectful of the dignity of the animal, which nowadays we have completely lost track of, right? I mean, it's okay to kill the animal, but the way we do it, right? We imprison them in cages. They cannot breathe. They cannot move. It's very sad when you look even at pigs. Okay, I have a special place in my heart for pigs. They look cute. I mean, this poor the female pig, right? She's in the same thing her whole life. She gives birth, they get rid of, and then give more, right? So this is a lack of respect, right, for the animals. So that's the warning. Yes, you can kill, but you need to respect the dignity of the animal, right? And also you need to be sensitive to not causing unnecessary pain to the animal. And this is later in the rabbinic laws of kosher and also halal. You kill a certain way, so in a way that it's very minimal, the pain. You basically, you slice the head very quickly, right? And the animal does not feel pain like now we do, right? We put them in an assembly line and slowly torture them, right? As they do with chickens. So there's that concession. And the other one is he gives fear to the animals so they're not trusting of people anymore. So they can protect themselves by staying in the wild, right? So God does 2 things. He gives a command how you're going to deal, how you're going to kill. And then he helps the animals understand, don't come near these people. They will eat you, right? Because the animals were naturally, drawn to us, right? So he gives them fear. You see what, that's the reason, right? To protect them. So we'll come back to the animals with, who was it who had compassion on the animals that died in the flood? I was going to respond to that. Who was it? Who said that? Who said poor animals? Why were they killed? That was you? Okay. I'm going to talk about that. Yeah. Okay. Nikolopoulos, that's you. Okay. You noticed very good. 7 days. That's significant. That's a detail. That's like, why, right? He could have just said for a few days, right? Or for many days. Why 7? There's a reason. We're going to look at that. So very good. After that, once you, by the way, once you discover these details, you got to think like, I wonder why. Where else did I hear about 7 days? You see how you do it? You got to go intertextually. It very much helps when you hear something. Where did I hear this before? That's how the biblical writers write, right? That's a technique. They write intentionally alluding to other well-known passages to make a point. So if you know very well the text and you're used to reciting it and hearing it, you come upon this passage 7 and you're like, oh, I heard this before. Where did we hear this before? 7 days? Creation, right? So, now your task would be, why? Why is he alluding to creation in the context of mass destruction? What do you think? You see, I'm doing it for you, the work.
Yeah.
Hold on, let him answer. That's crazy, right? Why do you think? So this, you got to reflect now. Be like, now that you've seen the connection, now you have to, it's 2 things you got to do. Hear the connections and then reflect why the author's making these connections. That's an exegetical technique. Go ahead. What do you think?
That, I would say that he's, strategic.
Why? Why allude in the context of destruction? Creation. You try it. Go ahead. Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
I think that people were like arguing against God and they were talking against God. They want to destroy that and create a new people which he imbued with a certain goodness, okay,
Okay.
and a certain way of understanding one another and also acting not only understanding one another but also acting good towards what God wanted.
Okay, so there's a, do you want to elaborate on what you just said?
It could be like a balance between the 7 days of creation versus.
7 days of destruction, right? Any other ways to?
The cosmic thing and not need to like go out of order.
Okay, so the destruction is proportional to the creation. Okay, but still massive destruction. Yes, go ahead.
Actually, 7 is very lucky sacred number. There's the 7 days of creation. There's the 7 colors of the rainbow that represent
Yeah.
the covenant between man and God in terms of the flood. And then there's the 7 days of the flood. There's 7 in terms of the curse of what's his name?
Canaan?
There's like the 7, and then there's the 77. So the number 7 is a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
repeated number.
That for sure, for sure.
That a lot of rabbinical scholars say that it stems from the fact that the number 7 is a lucky number in itself, based off the fact that God chose the number 7 from the beginning of creation.
I get that. So 7 represents creation. Why is it used in this context? It seems obscene, right? Yes, go ahead.
Maybe it's like I said, because 7 is lucky, so 7 is good.
So why is it
So
used?
God wanted to rid the world of evil
Okay.
and create a good world.
You're on the right track. You're on the right track. We're gonna come to that. You're on the right track. Good. Did you want to add something? I see your face.
Yeah, no, I think you said it.
Yeah.
Like recreation, like.
There's an-
creation and
okay.
recreation.
This is interesting. You see where we went with that, Nikolopoulos? You see, that's how you do it, right? You notice a detail that's like, wait, why is this given to us? Then you hear, is this said somewhere else? Usually this is what they're doing. And then you reflect. So we did both remez, where you hear, it was said here, that's a literary technique. You connect to another text, and then we did drash. Now we think, drash, what does it mean, right? That's how you're supposed to work. We're gonna do a lot of that today with the flood narrative. Good. So that was good. Novoa, always the right question. Why exile, right? But he's looking like, actually, that's what I was doing a lot too. Why that punishment for that fault, right? What's the connection? How is exile connected to murder? What's God trying to teach Cain here? Because clearly he's trying to teach him something, right? You wonder why he doesn't execute him. Perhaps because the first murder, so Cain might not have anticipated this result, right? Death is an abstraction until you see it, right? So maybe now God is working with Cain, right? But why exile? Good question. Yes.
Like God didn't necessarily punish Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
He gave them retribution.
Exactly.
Clearly.
Exactly. He's
Cain was
working.
given retribution.
Exactly. He's
Given
working
life,
with them.
Family.
Yeah. Exactly. He's given another chance, right? This is very beautiful moment here for Cain. Okay, good. Davidov. Yeah. Okay, why was nature destroyed along with evil humanity, right? Nature is innocent, right? Now remember, we're going to read the text in a certain way that it's not a punishment again. So then it will become clearer, right? Hopefully. Because, yeah, well, and you can already anticipate. So I'll respond to you then. I love Akbashev. You are reflecting for a long time. What does it mean to know Eve? Very nice. Very nice. No, in all seriousness, this shift, right, that we notice, I think you helped with that, right? The shift from knowledge, abstract intellectual knowledge, to kind of a more embodied knowledge of the other, right, is very interesting. And this connection of woman with wisdom might be there, right? You know the woman in order to know wisdom, right? So in fact, it's interesting, in the rabbinic tradition, you can't become a teacher unless you're first married, because you don't know nothing till you've been with that woman, right? So you can't become a rabbi, right? You can't become a religious leader unless you first know the woman, right? Yes, yes, I believe it is the case.
I had this conflict, like not necessarily, based on qualification, but more than some, yeah, most of the cases.
Yeah, I mean, they all disagree, but a few rabbis were saying, yeah, you need to, because that is the connection to wisdom. You can have knowledge and not wisdom, right? So I was going with them. I was continuing to reflect with you here. Good. I'm starting to now not be able to read myself. After 4 minutes exactly, I can't read my writing. So we've gone over 4 minutes, and now it's like, what did I just write here? Okay, I don't even know the name. Watson, I think. Yes. Why Noah? What did you ask about Noah?
Or like, why is Noah chosen?
Oh, yes. That look how I wrote it. 2 little lines. Yeah. Okay. Why was he considered righteous? You're right. It's no details, right? It's almost arbitrary. God picked him out of the blue. There's no details. So it doesn't feel right, right? You're right. There's an element of discomfort in the text itself, and we'll see that. Yes, you have an answer. Go ahead.
It was around the time of Ushpezidin or something like that. And Ushpezidin was sort of like pushed away by the people.
Who?
Noah was more accepted by the people.
Okay.
And Ushpezidin, it was something like that. Ushpezidin, yeah, whatever. And right, right, it was around that time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how Noah was accepted by the people. There's no detail, so I'm not sure that would work here.
It's that Noah was like anointed. It was believed that Noah was anointed by God.
But where do you get this information? Be careful, you gotta get it from the text. You can't bring the rabbinic tradition, right? Only text. Here we have no, like Watson is saying, there's no description of the man, right? Actually, there is, and we'll look at it. There's 2 repetitions, and we're going to look and see whether that is good or bad. Okay, Lam, where are you? Yes. Why water? We'll talk about that. It's a very important element here. And finally, Gubin, it's Canaan who's cursed, not Ham. Be
Yeah.
careful. That's see how people immediately go to Ham. It's
I
so
have to
it's in
read
the
it carefully.
culture. No, but it's in the culture that Ham was cursed, meaning the African, the father of the Africans, and therefore, if you're African descent, you're bound to be a slave. This is in the culture, right? So it's easy to stumble and go back into this misreading, right? So okay, all right, let's begin with Cain and Abel. So let's go there first, and then we'll do the flood. Okay, so absolutely, you guys are right. There's a problem. We start right away with a kind of injustice, right? And I'm going to highlight the injustice. Both, I mean, first of all, Cain had the idea. We forget this, right? Cain was the one who was like, let's do a sacrifice. And Abel kind of follows, you know.
I'm going right back.
Oh, please go ahead. Right, Cain starts out, right? He's the one who's the religious one. Notice how he's the one who is spiritual here. He's the leader. He's the alpha male, but spiritual. He wants to offer a sacrifice. So Cain he's not a bad guy, right? He's not the villain. He's almost somebody that God would have noticed, and because of that, he decides to put him to the test. You follow? Because Cain was already spiritual, he's the one who has the idea to offer. So God now is going to be like, ooh, you're interesting. Let me work with you, see what I can make out of you. Because the whole story is focused on Cain. Over and over again, God turns back to Cain, right? There's barely any dialogue between God and Abel. God is talking to Cain over and over. So I would like to suggest that Cain actually is the lead character. He's the one that interests God. He's the firstborn, by the way, which means that he should be the leader of the tribe. He's the one who has a spiritual gift, and he's the one that God, in a way, is interested in, wants to work with. So but we don't know that yet, right? For now, we just see both of them show up. They offer the sacrifice. There are some details, right, that could give us indication why God picked the one over the other. We'll talk about that, but it still feels deeply unfair, right? At that moment, Cain is deeply pained, right? The expression, the face fell, right? He's hit in his dignity as a man, right? God in a way hits him very deeply, humiliates him, right? There's an element of humiliation here, almost Socratic humiliation, right? Like Socrates does with Agathon in the Symposium. He's humiliated, and then God comes up, right? Guys, please keep your discussions in the group by raising your hand. Okay, it's not that I mind. I think it's great to discuss. It actually blurs my brain waves and I can't teach. So it's me, not you. So, okay, where was I? See, now I don't know where I was. Where was I? Yes.
No, I just had a question
Okay.
about what you said. You said that Abel first, first of God, and then it's Cain after.
No, Cain was the first one
Right.
who had the idea. Absolutely.
I'm just trying to figure out how to like, from the text, because I know it says like, for me, it says Abel also brought of the first one of his flock.
Exactly. So he follows, right? He's not the one God is interested in, because Cain is the one with the idea. Cain is the one with the spiritual interest, right? Abel is the little brother tagging along, looks like, right? So we'll look at that. We're gonna look. Don't worry. I'm just setting the problem. Okay. So God picks. Cain is humiliated. Then God comes to Cain, as though he doesn't know what he just did. Why are you distressed? It's annoying, right? It's like, why are you like now adding insult to injury, right? God seems to be really pushing Cain to his limits, right? Why are you distressed? Surely if you do right, sin crouches at your door, right? It's just adding insult to injury. And then predictably, Cain ends up killing his brother, right? Okay, so let's look at this. What I want to look at is two things. I want to look at why God favored Abel, what's trying to do here. And then I want to look at the punishment, why exile, right? Okay, any indications? Have you guys thought about it? Why God favors Abel over Cain? What's wrong with Cain that God is now pushing him like this? So one, and we'll go around like this. Go ahead.
So one thing, this wasn't pointed out by me, it was a friend that was reading this along with me, but like in the text, it says that Cain brought like some of his goods to sacrifice to God, but Abel brought the fattest of like the first of
Exactly.
his flock. So we have a relativistic
Yep.
description to Abel to show that he tried his best.
Good,
But
good.
Cain might have just brought anything.
Abel is just more generous, isn't he? Cain is a little bit stingy. I'm going to give you a few of my stuff, but Abel goes all out, right? And we have, now, why do you think, what is it? We have indications of Cain's character here, by the way, in his name. And in the way he was born, you have indications of his character, which explains why he's so stingy. So definitely there's the notion of he's a bit stingy. Abel is much more generous. So God is like, yeah, right. But there's more here, right? It's not enough, right? If God, remember, God is not, kind of offended. Oh, why are you so stingy with me? Well, I'll pick your brother. This is not what he's doing, right? He's working with Cain. He senses something deeper than that. There is a profound character issue here with Cain, and it's found in the name and in the way he was born. Let's see if you can find it. How's your name?
Even Bukhari is saying that.
Say it again. Akbashev. Thank you. Akbashev. Yes.
I kind of really went into this with what I wrote in terms of why the order of Cain and Abel. If we see in the text that Cain was born first, after follows Abel. Yet Abel was given his purpose first, then Cain was given after. So I looked
Yeah,
deeply into that,
it's interesting.
and I said that let me just speak. Cain was born first and
It's
followed yet the
interesting.
purpose. Abel was given first after the purpose of Cain.
Mhm.
As we know, Adam came first. So I look back at their parents. We
Okay.
know that Adam came first, and he was favored by God, and Adam had warmth in him, as you said, as he showed
Yeah.
love to Eve.
Yeah.
When he first saw her, Eve was from Adam. She was cold. In her search for divinity, she brought sin, but was given retribution, unlike the serpent, but like Adam.
Okay.
Now back to the children, we see that with the birth Cain came first, then Abel. The assignment of role, or how I will later explain the purpose of soul, is Abel followed by Cain. And shortly after that, we see Abel dies or returns to the dust before Cain, as Cain kills him. And I symbolize that to return to the dust is death, in which we know death, and Cain was the worker of soil, where dust is. I believe that Cain's murderous action was not true murder, but destiny prophesied in the text.
Speak, don't read. Summarize.
So basically, what I was saying is that this was not the murder of Cain and Abel was destined, was prophesied,
Ah, prophesied by who?
prophesied in the text,
Oh, I see. How?
based on Adam and Eve,
Okay.
based on the roles that they had, and based on the order in which the role they were assigned. So I symbolize that the shepherd would be, you have the duality, you have the order of, you have the order of humanity, now as you know it, the world, then you have the order of death.
I
And
see, I see, I
compared it
see.
to The way you said it, cosmic order.
Okay, interesting. I want to stop on that detail. Abel becomes he finds his destiny before Cain. That's interesting. You notice an interesting thing here. Did you guys see that? Cain is born first, Abel comes later, and you expect first Cain will be with the task, and then, but now the text reverses. Abel becomes keeper of sheep. Anybody want to think that through? So see, good detail. Now, why? Why is the author flipping? Anybody have any? I don't yet have, but I thought it was an interesting detail. So you gave your theory, it's good, but I'm curious, like, if anybody else has a theory, why Abel has his destiny before Cain, even though he's born second. That's strange. That's an interesting detail. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's in terms of, when you're the oldest in a group of people or like in a sibling dynamic, the younger kind of bases himself off of you, or it's like easier for the younger
Yeah.
sibling to like find themselves because they're being kind of confined to a set of circumstances, whereas the older one kind of has the full world at their
Yeah.
So
But here is the younger who finds it
no, that's
first.
what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
easier for the younger to find themselves first because
Oh,
they're kind of constrained in a set of circumstances, whereas the older one can like spend however much time they want finding themselves or whatever.
They could look up to the older person and say like, okay, I see what to do here, basically.
It's either I want to do that or I don't want to do, like, they have
Okay,
constraint
okay.
put upon them kind of thing.
but it's interesting. It shows almost like Abel is very independent, right? He doesn't follow his brother. He could have been what do you call it, a tiller of the soil like his brother, but he kind of veers away,
Mhm.
right? So there's kind of a strong personality. Interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
There's some significance from when it says, and I have gotten a man from the Lord.
Yes, we're going to talk about that right
Because
now.
I'm Because it's like if Cain was born first, right? and it's
Mhm.
like, wait, I lost my thought. Wait. It's like
Well,
being that Adam lost his power, I would say, in being the first man to rule. And now that this new man has come, it's like God is testing Cain to be the
yes. Absolutely. Right. The way he's described is both interesting and problematic, right? On the one hand, Eve, I mean, look at this. I have gained a male child. And it doesn't even say in the Hebrew with the help of the Lord, it says the Lord. So she considers him almost like divine, right? She's always in the wrong direction, Eve, with it, always seeking divinity where it's not. But nevertheless, he's a very powerful figure when he's born, right? He's the new Adam, he's the heir, he's the one who's supposed to rule now. He's the next king, right? So very important role. Now notice how he chooses to rule though, right? His name, I'll write it on the board, Cain, is from the Hebrew verb, kana, which means to possess. Look at this. Cain in the Hebrew, kai, from the Hebrew kana, which in Hebrew means to possess or acquire. Okay, so you should already be thinking, uh-oh, right? Remember, he's the king, he's supposed to rule. How is the person supposed to rule? We saw what that with. Yes.
Means to steal.
Yes, it means to possess. Okay, now you see how we've learned already the king, what he's supposed to do, right? The king is supposed to protect, to safeguard the cosmic order, right? To make sure every living thing breathes and flourishes. What do you sense here in this new king when his name means to possess, and then he becomes a possessor of the land, right? A tiller of the land. What are you already sensing in the direction Cain is taking psychologically in his personality? What could you sense? Yes.
Greed.
Yes, absolutely, right? You can sense already growing in the, Kana, to possess or acquire, to grasp. There's a grasping element in Cain, right? That you don't have in his brother, who means, the opposite. So you already see that this is a king who's going to grasp. This is a king who will accumulate for himself. This is not a king who will allow, right, who will nurture the cosmos. This is a king who will grasp in the cosmos what he needs. And yet he's deeply spiritual, right? He's the one who wants to offer a sacrifice. I mean, the sacrifice is the opposite of grasping. Sacrifice is offering. So you sense there is a tension in Cain. On the one hand, he's the grasper, he's the possessor. On the other hand, he comes up with the notion, I want to offer a sacrifice, but he's still, sacrifices, you can sense the tension. He offers, but not too much, right? Yes.
I think for that, you could say that like he offers a sacrifice. And maybe this is why God picks Abel over him. Like you could say that Cain offers a sacrifice as a transaction.
You could say that.
As something, like he wants something out of it, which would go with the possession.
Now, where do you see that in the text? I like the idea, but do you see indication?
I just thought of it because you were talking about how he means possession, and then, well, why does he give up sacrifice?
Yeah, why does he? No, why, right? Why would he come up? So it could be he's being transactional, thinking the sacrifice. Remember, in the pagan times, sacrifice is to appease the deity so that you can have a good harvest. So you might be actually there. You have it. You're in the ancient Near East. You have your basis, right?
I
Yeah.
think probably like Abel obviously doesn't have the same mindset as his brother, so he's thinking of it as a sacrifice. He thinks of it
Exactly.
as something like you're offering.
Very good, very good. Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Yes. So you can see already the tension. So God is working with him, but Cain is still not able to release, right? He's still in the right. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Which
go ahead.
actually
Good.
Makes sense now why, because before when I was reading it, I didn't understand why the king was so surprised when he got a punishment. Like he was actually surprised.
Oh yeah, he
And
was. Yeah.
which makes more sense now. Like if he was doing the sacrifice as a transactional thing,
Yeah.
you would think, he would think that, oh, God's gonna give him something good.
Exactly.
Which is why he was found to be surprised.
Exactly. Very good.
After killing his brother.
Nice. That's very good. And based in the ancient Near Eastern culture, right? That makes total sense what you said. Absolutely, right? Yes.
Question about the sacrifices.
Yeah.
We know that, Cain, gave, crops and those things in the field, but, Abel gave animals to sacrifice. Was this like, because this is the first time we're seeing
Yeah.
humans kill animals.
Right,
We
right.
know that God mentions after the flood that then they can kill animals. so
That's a good point, actually. To eat, maybe.
eat.
But no, that's a good point. Maybe they're already following the other nations, right? I don't know. That's a good point because you're right. If they can't eat animals until after the flood, why are they sacrificing? That point, I'm gonna think about that. I'm gonna research that. Anybody have any ideas? Well, there seems to be, yeah, go ahead.
So maybe it was a symbol of this, yeah, we would say that's his purpose, maybe it was a symbol of portion of his purpose, saying, here, God, you give me mine, I give you the.
Yeah, he's picking out of his riches. So maybe sacrifice was instaured, but not yet eating, right? It could be, I have to check. That's a good question, actually. Okay, so now we're getting a sense, right? Cain, in a way, is the center of the universe. He's the most important character. He's in the grasping mode, and God, in a way, is trying to like work with him, right? So what is the effect? So let's add one more thing, right? He's the center of the world. He's a grasper. Is there any consciousness in Cain of his brother Abel? Not really, right? Because he's the center of the universe. Remember, he's the man. It says here, right? She made a child. It's not even male child. I don't know why they translate like that. I made a man, she says, with the Lord, right? In the Hebrew. So she made a man with it. And then it says right after that, and then came Abel on the side, right? So you can see right away, this guy, he's been living the center of the universe. His brother is in this somewhere, not important, right? Now, what happens? Let's look at how God is working with him. What happens when God suddenly accepts the sacrifice of Abel? What happens? What does Cain realize at that moment? He's not the only one around here, right? All of a sudden, he sees his brother for the first time. And that, I believe, is what wounds him even more deeply. Because now all of a sudden he realized, I'm not the only one that God loves. I'm not the only one, right? It's like the siblings, right? When you have a younger sibling come in is born and your whole world comes. Anybody is one of those who has a younger sibling and your whole world is shattered? Is no. Only
I'm the youngest.
oh, right, you destroyed everyone. So, but it's very typical, right? When a new sibling comes, the sibling right before that, his world is shattered. He's not the only one anymore, right? This is what's happening to Cain. God, in a way, by looking at Abel, is actually working with Cain, right? He's looking at Abel saying, look, you need to open your mind here. You need to see that you're not the only one. If you're going to be a king, you can't be all by yourself grasping. You need to have a sense of the others around you. You need to have a sensitivity to everyone around you. You can't be a king like that, right? Okay, now it's interesting. The story continues. Cain is, he's not learning the lesson. He's not getting it, right? And you can sense the tension. God is, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just thought that I had two. It's not something you said before, like, when Cain kills Abel, and it's not really any remorse or anything, because that would have meant that he didn't, I would say, that's not suggest, but I would like acquire from that he may not have cared about his brother.
Absolutely not, right? He's not conscious. It's not even he doesn't care. He's not even, he doesn't see him.
Then again, you have to, because you said like Adam was this very loving person.
Yeah, he's like Eve. He's like Cain is like Eve.
Right.
Okay, he takes after his mom. He really does. I mean, you can sense in Cain. There's a continuity here. There's a kind of callousness, right? It's like he's not aware of like Eve. Eve also was not aware of the man next to her. And Cain is kind of that oblivious too, yes. So, and God, you see God repeatedly working with him. And look at that. So then God comes, warns him, be careful. I see what you're thinking, right? Be careful. And now look at this. Cain said to his, now there's not even that, right? Yes, actually, the text says, Cain said to his brother, verse 8. But then there's no continuation what he said. There's a breakdown of language, right? Which leads to murder. You see, this is very interesting, right? When there's a breakdown of language, when there's a breakdown of negotiation, when there's a breakdown of dialogue, there's a danger, right? And then he kills him, right? Now, it's interesting. God is still working with him then. What does he ask him? Still working on the same issue, right? What's the question God asked Cain? Where's your brother? Still trying to, open your eyes, right? You cannot be king like this, right? And Cain is still, and and I've read some commentators, one second, who say actually he's not even being, what's the word? Yeah, he really does. He's really, what? What? Since when am I he's naive. He's still completely oblivious. Am I supposed to be my brother's keeper? What? Right? Yeah, but he's flippant, right? He's like, he could be either flippant or completely clueless still about the dimension of the other, right? Yeah, he's very dysfunctional, actually. Yes, go ahead. You've been with
Maybe the Cain killing Abel was a prelude to the flood. Because what happened was one brother was evil, the other brother was good.
Yeah.
In the same way that the people that were spoke against God before the flood and were fighting or whatever, he destroyed them and he created a better world. Created more good people, like more like people that would not only get along with themselves, but as I'm like Havero, but also would follow in God's way. So maybe what happened with Cain and Abel was a prelude to what happened at the flood,
Interesting. Cain and Abel
Is
is
that what
a
I'm saying?
prelude to the flood. I have to
Because
think
just
about
the way
that.
that Cain,
Yeah.
the evil one, killed Abel, the good one.
Yeah.
There were evil people before the flood
But he
who were
doesn't
going
die.
against God, who were,
Yeah.
and then he destroyed that, and he wanted to create better people who would not be against God, who would not fight, who would not whatever, and that's what he did. And then he said, well, I'm never going to destroy the earth again.
Okay.
Because now I've created people that are more in the way that we meant them to be. So now we don't have a reason to destroy the world again.
Okay, I mean, I don't think I agree with you, but that's okay. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. But I get the idea of is that a precursor to the flood story? And I would want to think about that. That's an interesting point, that there's maybe some parallels. I would want to look into that. Thanks. Yeah, Davidov.
Speaking on the interpretation that was Cain being naive, he wasn't being sarcastic, I agree with that. And I don't know if this is what the interpretations say, but like my explanation of it is that he's responding that way because of what God told him previously, where it's like, oh, why are you depressed? If you do good, will you not be rewarded? If you do evil, sin is crouching at your door and desires to have you. Like this is traditionally seen as God explaining free will to Cain. Like, look, every man is responsible for his own fate. You can control what happens to you with your own decisions. And so that's why later when he
I
kills
like that.
Abel,
Yeah.
he's confused that God is asking him what happened to you. But like, why are you asking me? Ask my brother.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
every man is responsible for himself and what happens to
Very
him.
nice.
Like for family.
It's a terrible family. I know we see them as perfect. They're far from perfect. Yeah.
Don't understand that because when I read it as when I read Cain's response of "Am I my brother's keeper?" I read that as
Flippant.
snarky.
Yeah. It could be either one,
Like-
right? It does sound very flippant.
Since if you go by your thing of he didn't have an awareness of his brother, how are you gonna kill somebody that you're not aware of?
Well, he wants to continue to not be. You see what I mean? Cain, in a way, is incapable of living with others, right? He's used to being alone. So naturally, he'll kill, right? Anytime you have a grasping mentality, the other is a threat. Let me talk a little bit about that, actually, right?
I believe that.
Yeah, anytime you're in the mentality, this is mine, you become a threat, right? This is mine and you have no right to it. You become a threat. I mean, Cain, in a way, is the precursor, we'll see that, of the city, which we call the city state, right? At the time, the cities were kind of mini states, right? So how are the cities characterized? They have walls. You can't come in if you don't belong to the city. The land belongs to the citizens of the city, right? So in Cain, you already have the mentality of the nation state. This is mine. You don't belong here, and this is not yours, right? Anytime you have borders, you have the beginning of violence, right? Anytime you have this is mine, you have the beginning of violence, whether it's exclusion of people who you think do not belong there, or whether it's conquest of more lands. You see what I mean? This is what we see here with Cain. We see the precursor of the type of king we will see, which will be either this land is mine and I exclude anyone who, so that I don't have to share, or I will conquer and get more land, right? That's what we're seeing. This is the beginning. And that's where we are today, by the way, right? Any nation state who says, this is my land and no one has a claim to it except me and my people is speaking in the line of Cain, right? This is a problem, right? We are right now in this context, right? We believe this country is ours, just belongs to us, right? Anybody who's not from this country doesn't have a right to it. We're in the line of Cain. And the next step is violence of exclusion or violence of conquest, which is, according to the biblical text, illegitimate use of power. Why? Because the land belongs to God. We see this in Deuteronomy. The land belongs to God. And so anyone who goes around saying, this is mine, is already being illegitimate rule, right? So I want us to ponder this, right? In the context where we are now, with the mass deportations taking place, let's ask ourselves, where are we here? Are we following the line of Cain, or are we right? Are we ruling correctly, right? Are we ruling in a way that is legitimate? When we are grasping and saying, this is mine, are we not situating ourselves in the line of Cain and in the line of violence? You follow me? I'm being political intentionally. I had to say this, okay? So yes, go ahead.
Why does it feel like God is trying to correct his mistake?
Because he's the firstborn. He's the spiritual one,
Okay.
right? There's something still, there's a tension in Cain. On the one hand, he's a powerful man. There is a spiritual potential in him, but at the same time, there's this grasping attitude, right? And God is trying to work with Cain to release the grasping, which brings us to the punishment. Why exile? Why exile? Yes.
So I just wanted to say that's really funny because like you're saying how basically we are acting as it's Cain right now with the possession and everything. I think that's really funny because I just thought like, what would God's reaction be to well, he did this whole flood? Like I agree with what he said about Cain and Abel being like the precedent for the flood.
Mhm.
I just think it's really funny, like what would God think if he did the whole flood just to create better people, just for everyone to turn out to be like Cain?
Well, yeah. That's exactly what happened, right? It's yeah. So I don't know. That's why I was saying I don't know if I agree with you that the people were better after the flood, right?
His intention, God's intention was to do better, only for us to screw it up.
Of course, yeah. It's our specialty, right? Okay, let's turn to the punishment. Exile. Why exile? Right? Yes,
You think that God still has Cain?
absolutely. There's a reason. He's trying to redeem him, right? He's still working with him through the punishment. What's he trying to do? Yes.
I feel like, especially because we're saying Cain didn't see the people around him, it was very noticeable, like he gets marked. So anybody that sees him will know who he is.
Okay,
So
yeah.
it's like
He'll be seen.
the exact opposite of like everybody's going to see you, and then when people see you, you see others. So it's like you need to exist in the world as somebody that's like interpersonal.
Yes, we're getting there. Absolutely. What? Let's go deeper. Now, he's in exile, meaning, does he own anything? Who's in exile? Exile. Do they own things? Do they belong? Do they? Yes.
Who's in exile at this point?
Yeah.
I would say maybe Adam and Eve.
Yeah, everyone, right? But Cain is even now in deeper exile, right? So he doesn't own anything. He loses his possession. He's now, by the way, when you're in exile, how do you feed yourself when you don't own anything? How do you feed yourself? How do you survive? Exactly. Right? Now he has to begin he needs others. He has to see them, right? And they see him. So God is moving Cain from an ethics of individualistic, self-made man, possession. I made this, I built this, it's mine, which is the American ethics, right? He's moving him to an interpersonal ethics, to an interrelational ethics. Cain is moving from a rational to a relational ethics. You follow me? He's moving from I built this, I succeeded, I made it, I worked hard, now this is mine, I deserve this, blah, blah, blah. Now God is flipping that to now you will open yourself to the dimension of humanity, right? And that is what he's teaching Cain. So you see how the exile of Cain, right, God is still working with Cain. I mean, 3-4 times he's running after this guy trying to shake him up, right? Cain, actually, the ending is interesting. What does he end up, how does he end up, Cain, after all of this ordeal? What kind of person? Yes.
Starts his own family.
Okay.
Family,
And what else does he do? He does a lot.
build the city.
Builds a city, but it's more than a city. Yes, and then what
Nation.
even beyond that, you have the son. What do they do, the sons? What kind of people are they? Yeah.
I feel like he knew his wife.
He does know his wife. Yes, so he becomes a little bit human. Yes. No, I don't see that. Go to the text. Go to the text. Where are these? Where's Cain? Blah blah blah. Verses 1. This is after Lamech. Cain, his wife, founded a city, named the city. Look at his sons, what they become. Jabal dwells in tents. Jubal plays the lyre and pipe. Zillah, copper, iron. Who are his descendants?
Are they all like kind of different aspects of Abel?
So you have Abel, right? Abel pops back in, the shepherds, right? You have also the people who work iron. You have the musicians, right? What's he do? Who is Cain? He's the father of what? People, obviously, but also civilization, right? He becomes in a way a civilizing force, right? So there's a kind of happy ending, but at the same time, there's we have to be careful because he's still city, right? He's still remaining in this is mine mentality, right? City state has to do with city always has walls, right? The city always has walls, and the city is always claiming a territory for itself. So Cain, even though he went into exile, and he has a wonderful progeny, he has, culture, civilization, there's still in Cain this notion of the city, right? And in the end, ultimately, sadly, all of it is destroyed in the flood. The generation of Cain is destroyed. All of this.
It's like, they don't stop, like, just let them be.
All right, we'll talk about that. We'll get to the flood in a bit. Okay, Any questions on Cain, on the kind of beautiful and tragic life of Cain? Yes, go ahead.
How similar Cain is to his mother.
Hmm.
We have the individuality, me, the me.
Yes, yes,
Which different from Abel. That's the correlation that I was trying to
and the grasping, right?
grasp, take.
Taking. Eve took the fruit, right? And he's also kana, acquisition. They're very similar. It's like the generational sin, right? Coming up.
Very good, balance of coalition. We have the man and the woman.
Yep.
Together, they must need each other, but also man and man, not.
Yes.
not necessarily
Exactly.
The gender man and man, but we need each other.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
The brothers, if brothers.
Yeah.
Closest you can be. If they can turn on each other, then.
Very nice. L-
Those furthest apart.
Let me elaborate on that before I get to you guys' question. We have here a prototype, the brothers prototype, which continues in the book of Genesis with Esau and Jacob, Joseph and his brothers, Ishmael and Isaac. We have the brothers. And what you'll notice is that the brothers actually need each other. Cain is the land, Abel is the more spiritual aspect. And just like you have in the 12 tribes of Israel, the Levites, who were the spiritual leaders, and then the others, you have something similar here. You have a spiritual, you have Havel, who is kind of, a wanderer. He's kind of, his name means breath. So he's already kind of more spiritual. And then you have the more anchored guy. And in fact, they should have been working together, right? But sadly, Cain kind of takes over and misses the gift of his brother, right? Very nice. I like that. Davidov and then Vice.
What I wanted to mention, like, because I was kind of wrestling with this as a question of why he's punished in this way as opposed to being given death for murder. And I like this explanation of a lot of like this is to fix his sin, because the sin came out of him being impersonal. Now he has to be personal. And I think I think it's also cool that this is like a negation of what his inclination would be, because I realized that like I asked, like, why is he given the treatment of somebody who's protected from the Avenger? Like,
Yeah.
you're only thrown if you kill somebody, a murderer is only put into exile for killing somebody if it's not murder and instead manslaughter, like it was accidental. So like I questioned why Cain was given that treatment. I realized that you're being put in that. The reason why you're exiled into the city is to protect you from the Avenger, like the family member of the person
Oh, okay.
killing you. And I realized,
City of Refuge.
yeah, I
Yeah.
realized that in this situation, Cain would be both murderer and Avenger because he's able.
Yeah, that's
And so,
true.
like maybe he's protected with immortality because he himself wants to die. And he says as much to God. He's like, "Oh, now I'm going to be killed for
Yeah.
my sin."
Yeah.
Oh, no, you have to keep like living.
Right. Yes.
But
Very nice. Yes, good. Yes, Vice. Go ahead.
Like you mentioned something, like he related to Adam and Eve. Eve, you also have to remember, was also like a feminist of her day.
Yes.
And that she wanted equal rights to the Garden of Eden. She wanted to be equated to man. So I agree with what he's saying, but you also have to understand that Eve sort of wanted to grow out on her own.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. And Cain is also a very solitary figure. So we have the solitude, the grasping. He's very much the son of his mother, right? Absolutely. Good. Okay. So yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I understand why God didn't kill Cain as a punishment. What I don't understand is not only does he not let people kill him, but if they do kill him, they get
Avenged 7 times. Yeah.
yeah, avenged.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it's just really big vengeance, like rah.
So if somebody killed Cain, then I don't understand how that would correlate into, like, is that a punishment for Cain? or-
No, no, no. It's simply he's protecting Cain. He's saying, if someone tries to kill you, I will destroy them. I will protect you and I will avenge you if someone tries to kill you.
Oh, I thought
Right?
it meant the person who did the killing of Cain
No, no.
is the one who's like, I'm like that.
No, no, no.
makes sense.
God is protecting Cain, right? He's trying to protect him. So there you can sense there's a genuine affection of God for Cain. It's interesting. And we don't know, right? At the end, eventually Noah comes out of the third son, Seth, right? So Cain, sadly, everything, it becomes the generation of the flood, right? So Cain becomes that generation, which was so wicked that God, right, was uncomfortable with it, right? So it seems like the possessive and the, the kind of solitary, no sense of ethics failed, right, in the context, at least in the progeny. Maybe Cain got the lesson, but his descendants become just that, right? And then it brings about destruction, right? Yes.
I don't understand why the number 77 in itself, we know that 7 is a lucky number, and the number 77.
It's exponentially
is
7.
actually-
Yeah, that's what it
more
means.
but
It's just-
means
Yeah.
Good fortune, with the number 77.
7 means complete.
Hazard.
Yeah. You mean in the numerical value,
Yeah,
77?
Hazard, it means good fortune.
Okay, but numerology is one thing. Biblical text is a little different, right?
But
So
it's very heavily connected.
yeah,
All these numbers, they represent something. So
True.
Why 77 doesn't double down on the number 7? Why not? Tenfold, right? I'd say tenfold.
7 is complete, so they will be completely avenged, right? So in that sense. So, but yeah, that's interesting that would be kind of a more Kabbalistic reflection on why is there the luck, connected to that. That's an interesting discussion you can have in your head.
That's-
Yeah, yes.
Sorry.
No, it's
That's
fine. No, no, this is very good. They should.
This is like a side note, not a really serious question, but where does Cain get his wife?
So here's the speculation that Adam and Eve were not the only, right? They were just that the lines of you see the descendants, the Greeks, the Africans, and the Semites. So the Asians, they're somewhere else, right? So I think that, right, that they're like the first parents of that part of the world, perhaps you could say that. So there are other people, right? I mean, there's no account of the Far East here. Where are they? Right. So I would assume that there were other people, but simply the biblical text is focusing on Semitic history. Yeah. So in that sense, he might have gone all the way to the east and found, some women there, right? So that could have been right. Okay, good. All right. Shall we go into the flood? Yes. Do you guys need a break or you want
Okay,
to?
that's fine, like a few minutes.
Okay, let's take, it's 4:19. Let's come back at 4:25. Okay?
No, discussion's over.
No, we're extending it today. So you can go if you need to, but we're extending
How long?
1 hour.
We're extending it.
Yeah, no, some of you have to go early. That's fine. Yeah, I'm recording it. But we also have a few people here still.
What are we doing during this hour?
So hold on. So whoever said they would stay, please stay. Right? And I know you guys had to go, but I think you guys, I don't know about you, you have to go, right? The rest of you, please stay so we can have some kind of discussion. Otherwise, yes.
What's due for next time?
Violence in the Bible. You always, so you go to my YouTube channel and you put my name and then you will see the playlist for violence in the Bible.
What is due for next time?
We're gonna do, we're gonna do Tower of Babel, and so chapter 11 and chapter 12, chapter 11 and 12. Let's do next time.
I have to
Um,
go,
No,
okay?
I'm just kidding. Okay, bye. Yes, 10 is, I don't know what is in 10 actually. Yeah, sure, read 10. Yeah, 10 to 12. Okay, so quick break.
When
We're
is
back
the
at
first
25. It's on the syllabus, the first test.
And it's take home, right?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, hold on.
This is very.
I stopped the recording. I can't think.